James, welcome back to the podcast.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's another interesting week here in the great state of California.
Isn't it always?
Let's get right into it. So, making kind of national news, this came to my Instagram multiple times. A new bill is getting passed. I'm going to read it directly from just the first part of this. A new bill introduced into California state legislature aims to give employees the right to disconnect from their job when they are off the clock, protecting workers from having to answer emails or calls from supervisors. Assemblymember Matt Haney from San Francisco introduced Assembly Bill 2751 in February. It should be optional, Walnut Creek resident Tony Ritchell said. An employee ought to have the opportunity to choose if they want to answer the call. Ritchell works in the real estate. He said that had many bosses over the years, some respected, that did not respect his time off than others. So just looking at that, from my point of view, I've had two jobs, kind of just if you look at it from two spectrums of it. I worked at Cane's Chicken before, and I remember I had a boss there that always called me on the weekends. He knew I was 17 and I desperately needed money, and he always called me, and I was so annoyed, and I hated that job, so I really, really hated when he called. But I've also been on the other spectrum of this where, I run an institute here, and I run as executive director of the institute, and I have employees, and we have stuff that pops up all the time. We have events, we have people coming into town for speaking deals, and it's hard to predict. It just seems, to me, there's so many diverse businesses out there. It seems to be very difficult for someone to make a law that determines it all because everything's so different. What's your thoughts?
I think you hit the nail on the head on the last point with making a law. There's some things you can just decide whether you're employed or who your employer is, and I don't think you need a law to regulate that. I think that man makes a great point. It should be optional whether your boss can, talk to you, call you, text you, email you outside of business hours. It should be optional for your employer to pay you more, and whether say you'll make $20 an hour if you don't answer your phone, you'll make $30 an hour if you answer your damn phone. It's just if I live and die on my phone, I'm in the real estate business. I need to answer a call. It could be from a prospective client. It could be from a vendor. It could be one of the buildings are on fire. I have no idea. I have to answer my phone all times of the day, every day of the week. And I get compensated for that. And, if you feel like you're at a crappy job that doesn't compensate you and your boss annoys you, you should leave. Again, it's up to the decision. I don't think you need a law deciding whether or not your employer can email you or text you. Just don't answer the phone if you don't want to answer the phone. And if you don't want to answer the phone and they want to fire you, great. You didn't like that job anyways. You really wanted a job? Okay, now you answer your phone because that's part of doing the job you're in.
Yeah.
There are bosses you could talk to, negotiate, have a contract with, saying you do not text me, you do not contact me outside of hours. This is my personal time. You can arrange that all beforehand. And if the employer is not willing to do that beforehand, don't work for them. Oh, but I need a job. Then do what you do to need to get the job. Like you don't have the power in that situation. If you're an expert in your field, you have that human capital. You can totally demand that from your employer, and most of the time they'll respect that because you have the skills. But if you're someone who's working a fast food job, you're kind of replaceable. And at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's not nice to get bothered in your off hours, and you don't have to respond to them, and they don't have to employ you. That's the way I look at it.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, and I think that there's just so right. The employers have the right, and I think actually Dana White brought up something. I saw a clip of him not too long ago speaking about. He goes, you know what? So much of this generation, so much is so soft. If I'm glad they make rules and stuff like this, so that because I'm going to succeed. I'm going to crush it, and it's. People that I think it will give an advantage to people that are really ambitious that will say, hey, go to my boss and be like, hey, you can call me anytime.
I completely agree.
I know the law says that, but you can call me anytime, and I'll answer. And like you said, you can make more money that way. But I still, just on a logistical point of, when I think about it, there's so many different jobs and like from state, and I think that I was reading an argument against this. It was basically, even state employees that, something happens in the state of California, emergency, if they're not working, if it's past 5 o'clock, but you're not allowed to call someone. There's nurses on calls. There's just so many different jobs that that have to be on call.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, and so maybe that has to be put into the contract beforehand now. I don't know, but it doesn't seem logistically like it would work.
And, also the thing is, like, yeah, it's very unique case by case, job by job, and passing a law is not free. To enforce a law costs a lot of money, to make sure people are following the rules, but to even get this stuff drafted, waste the time of the Assembly and the Senate and the governor. I mean, none of this is free, and we're basically passing a law for something that should be a case by case basis. And I also, again, completely agree with your point earlier. The people who are going to take advantage of this, people who, are grinders, people who will work up the way up the corporate ladder, if there's someone reliable, you can call in the off hour when there's an emergency or when you need something, they're more likely to get promoted. Those are more likely manager, or, other higher up positions in different corporations. That's what you want.
Yeah. Well, moving on, you make a good point. Just there's going to be some negatives, but there's also some pros for the ones that actually want to grind. So moving on, continuing in the great state of California and our legislator in Sacramento, a bill that was, I don't remember, is this a proposition or was this a bill? But it was a bill that was passed forcing fast food chains in the state of California to have a minimum wage of $20. That officially kicked in this last week, effective on Monday, this last Monday. Raises wages for workers from $16 per hour to $20 an hour. From KTLL 5, most of the fast food workers statewide are expected to benefit from this new law after Democrats and state legislature acknowledge that most who work in fast food restaurants are not teenagers earning spending money, but adults working to support their families. The Associated Press reported. Still, the new law won't benefit everyone who works in the fast food restaurant. On March 25th, Gavin Newsom signed Bill 16 into law, which exempts fast food restaurants in airports, hotels, event centers, theme parks, museums, center other locations as presented from the new law. Which didn't mention that Panera, I think it was like a bakery, was also added in there. Mm-hmm. Also didn't mention that they also are huge donors to Mr. Gavin Newsom. I'm sure that didn't play any role. He said it didn't, so I guess we'll take him at his word. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure, but government loves to step here in businesses' way here. They'll do a lot. They like to step in. California legislator is very pro-labor here and very is against a lot of the business culture here. What's your thoughts?
I mean, there is anti-business sentiment here, and also it's not a bad thing to be pro-labor, but the laws they pass don't help the labor force. For example, one, look at those exemptions. Bakery, right? So anyone who works at Panera doesn't get this increase. All right. Theme parks, airports, you said those were exempt. Theme parks where they can, your only food you're eating there is their food. They can charge whatever they want to charge. You go to Disneyland, you go to Universal Studios, you're paying 3 times the price for a normal fast food meal than you would outside the park. But those people don't have to get paid more, the ones that are making so much more money. Same with the airport. Where else are you going to eat? I mean, seriously, these are like our captive customers, and now those are the ones who probably should be paying their employees the most, but now aren't obligated to. Okay, now, looking at it economically, right? I feel bad for the people who are, have this job to support their family. That's one thing you want to be pro-labor. Here's what this law will do, though. Raising the minimum wage will have less jobs, so less people will be able to support their families. Only certain chosen few who are able to keep their jobs will have this added benefit support. But eventually, and especially with technology nowadays, we're going to start seeing a lot more of those kiosks.
Yep.
And those kiosks don't get your order wrong. You're the one who's doing the order. It's your fault. Those kiosks, your maintenance on those are, a tech guy coming in every so often. There's no calling in sick. There's no, won't answer the phone after hours like we just talked about. That's what these people will be replaced with. And there you go. There's less jobs now. There's, say, these numbers are made up, but say there was 100% employment at $15 an hour or whatever that current amount. Now you raise it to $20 an hour. Now say only 70% of the people who originally had their jobs get to keep that job, and now 30% leave and get replaced by robots because they simply don't have the money to afford it. I mean, even a big corporation like McDonald's, they won't. Why would you expect them to not make a business decision? Like, of course, they don't want to be. Most corporations, I would say more mom and pop shops or general fast food chains don't want to be just the people who dump and pick up new employees. But at the same time, like, if you're gonna make them pay them more when people were willing to accept a lower price, you're gonna hire less people. You're gonna invest more in technology, and you're gonna leave people behind.
Uh, you, that's was when I first saw it and my first thought, and you just think about business owners and the business owners I know. Um, their incentive is obviously to make money, and most business owners I know think long term, and they know that technology with AI and technology is getting better. I mean, you're seeing in Taco Bell. I mean, the new Taco Bell just opened up. It's mostly kiosks, and you're ordering everything, and so. Long-term thinking is, well, employees are going to be too much. I'll take the hit now and invest in some kiosks, and don't have to have worry about employees. They're going to find a way around. I guess is ultimately my point. Is business owners, the incentive is to make money, and they're not going to do something that's going to take away from their bottom line. And so, the more the state forces certain things, it's just not going to work.
Absolutely.
And to me, it should be incentives other ways. There's other ways to incentivize them to, maybe even give more hours, do, maybe even hire. I don't know what it is. Figuring out better ways to put them to work. I don't know, but it just seems like the overreach on this one and the force. I don't know if it'll work. I'm not sure, especially.
I'll tell you right now, it's
Yeah.
not going to work. It's not going to. It's just simply as that. It's simple economics. It's simple, technology. It's going to hurt the laborers they're trying to protect. It's going to hurt the consumer. And the only people who will benefit from this is going to be the big corporations. They know that they know how to navigate this. If they truly wanted stuff like that shot down, they would have shot it down. They have enough money behind
We
it.
didn't even deep dive into the Panera, aspect of it. I guess the bakery, if you.
Well, I'm sure Panera is one of those. I mean, Gavin Newsom's a big supporter. I'm sure Disneyland and some other theme parks like that, the airports. I mean, those government property, so they'll get to benefit. It's not a surprise that these firms are the ones benefiting. These are the ones who have the money behind them to just influence. Oh, hey, throw down $20,000 to your campaign. We really think bakeries are an important part of California, and if the minimum wage is raised, then now we won't be able to conduct business. Theme parks are vital. Well, theme parks are struggling. We really need be able to have cheap labor. Now, these are the same people lobbying. They're the captive audience, the captive employees, the
Yeah.
captive consumer.
You know what I just hope, when you see this stuff, as I just hope people's eyes start kind of opening, and just seeing, and it's on both sides. It's not a left, right. It's on both sides about kind of where the cookie crumbles. And if you have the money and if you have the lobby power, you can do pretty much, you can get what you want. In state government, federal government, it's the way the institutions have been designed, it's just money kind of rules the day, and if you can get the right lobbies, it's done.
Yeah.
Moving on to something that kind of, a little bit of a different segue, a little bit, but in kind of the same vein. And when you think about government's role, especially here in California, they're going to be attacking businesses and doing stuff with businesses in the sense with no work calling after 8 to 5. They changed the minimum wage. Now, they also have put a lot of rules on cannabis and dispensaries, but there always seems to be stories coming out of something crazy going on. I wanted to read this story. At least one person arrested. More than 50 pounds of illicit drugs were seized when police served a search warrant on an illegal marijuana dispensary in San Bernardino County. Authorities announced Tuesday. The April 2nd raid targeted an unsolicited dispensary located in the area of Highland and Arrowhead Avenues in San Bernardino. In the video, in a video of the rapid raid posted to social media by San Bernardino Police Department, officers can be seen entering the facility with guns drawn. we were talking a little bit before the show started, before we started filming here. I remember college almost 10 years ago now. God, I'm getting old. I've just dated myself there. I remember I was walking with a buddy just down the street, and it was just a regular street, not even, maybe a block or two from campus, from USC campus. And, everyone smoked, and everyone was smoking. And he goes, "Hold on a second, I got to go into my store." And I go, "What store? Everything's chained off. There's no stores here. The street looks like it's run down." And he opens the side door, and in walks, we walk into a cage. We hear a buzz. He hits the button, a buzz. We get buzzed into a regular store, and it was a dispensary. Didn't ask for IDs. My friend bought his joints, his weed, or whatever he was buying, and we left. And I go, "What was that? They didn't ask for nothing. They didn't do." And he goes, "Oh yeah, there's like that all over the place." And since I moved here, you always hear these stories of dispensaries and something. It seems like we're enforcing laws on like the normal businesses and the mom and pop shops, but these dispensaries just seem to kind of have a little bit of a free reign and get to do a lot of just whatever. And there's countless stories, but I don't know what's going on.
That's a funny thing about Southern California and California in general is you'll see businesses like this. I'm familiar with those back in high school and college. These basically unmarked dispensaries. And if someone from high school knows about it, surely the police should know about it. And that's an interesting thing. Okay, first we'll start off with legal dispensaries. It's still a recently legalized substance. It's only been a couple years, and I'm all for that. And the thing I see there though is you hold them to a higher standard. New dispensaries are popping up all over the place. They should have higher security standards, and you're just not seeing that kind of enforced. And when you should know when every new dispensary exactly where it is, exactly who's running it, because it's a brand new substance and it's something that was previously heavily criminalized. You would think you would have a higher level of scrutiny on them, but they don't. If a restaurant or a bar, you find out, you could go get drugs here, and there was also constantly crime, and there was constantly security needed to be there. Like that place would get shut down immediately. But now there's a dispensary where other drugs are being sold, and it's basically it's hurting the people who need marijuana for their medical and other to avoid opioids. But at the same time, it's making these places dangerous, and that's never good for a community. Now you go to the legal dispensaries. People know about these legal dispensaries, and yet they're not shut down because they're under some kind of guise. You would think, again, that the government, this is a time, I'm usually pretty much against government regulation, but when it comes to a substance like this, you would think you have a really high standard. But no, these are a bunch of different places. They're basically like commercialized drug dealers. When was a drug dealer able to get an office building, a retail front, and lease it out? It wasn't legal before him, and now it is. You're constantly seeing these people rent out and just selling drugs. When they're selling marijuana, not under a license, they're probably going to sell a bunch of other stuff not under a license, like other kind of illicit drugs. It's just you would think those places should get shut down, like priority number one, within a week or two of them being up. But you'll see these places up for months, even years. It's just crazy to see the priorities of, the California legislature and the local governments and the local police forces, that these are not the things being taken down immediately.
Well, I think it is. It's priorities, right? When you look at it, the priorities is not marijuana is, they're like, whatever, and there's so many people.
But it's not just marijuana. There's crimes happening in these places. Again, I'm all for the legalization of marijuana and having them roll out in safe dispensaries. But these illegal dispensaries, you would think, why is this not the priority? And
Right.
they're selling other things out there, and they're selling them to underage kids.
Well, you know what it seems to me, and actually this is kind of a good segue into our net, is that it's interesting to see what society, and even here in California, turns into the boogeyman, right? It seems like our legislator and our leaders have turned big businesses and these corporate monopolies, or what like they call them, as really the boogeyman and the people that are the enemies when it comes to lowers drugs and stuff. That's not a priority, or even crime stuff. It's more of these top, these business, they seem like the oligarchs. They treat them, and they're like, we're fighting against the corporate man. But when it comes to like crime and stuff, it just is not the priority. And so to me, it's interesting what our society and our community here in California, I guess, sees as the boogeyman. Speaking of boogeymen, interesting story, an interesting week this week. Another thing happened. No, I shouldn't say another thing. An interesting thing, a fireball went flying across the sky, and I heard multiple things. So I came here with you, and first one you wanted to say was, oh, it was the SpaceX. And it was like, it's over, not a big deal, SpaceX. I was listening on Twitter. Someone says, we got the aliens. They're here. They've come to California, Southern California. They've made their statement. Some said it was just an asteroid. I want to read what this first clip of it, but it's so funny to me. You know, and another one was the Chinese spy balloon. You know, you get those ones. It's so funny is how it's so prevalent now. You know, even when I grew up, 90s, early 2000s, there was always UFO things and stuff. But now there's so much going on. So I want to get your take on that. But sky gazers in California were left stunned early Tuesday when they witnessed a series of bright, fiery lights streaking across the clear night sky. Video shows the mysterious golden object shooting across the sky in a straight line at 1:30 a.m. in Moronia Valley, which is about 70 miles east of Los Angeles. One person said, "What the hell?" One puzzled onlooker in this video can be heard saying, "Oh, it's the meteor shower. Yeah, it looks like S blah, blah, blah. What the hell?" Anyways, I'm not going to read all that.
Yeah.
But it's just, my general point is it just seems like things fly across, and next thing you know, it's aliens, UFO. What is the mindset? Why are we going? Why is that the first place we go now?
I mean, I guess it's a little explanation that people can be comfortable with. I mean, especially when you take away everyone's iPhone, you would have a different story. You'd just be someone, oh, I saw something in the sky the other day. It's like, okay, bud. But now that everyone has a camera and, all these people can be connected across, the state and the country, everyone has a quick discourse, a quick place to meet and say, did anyone else see that? And I think it's fun, and it kind of also speaks to nature that we don't really know what the hell's going on sometimes. Even when Starlink, which I thought was originally was SpaceX launching the Starlink satellite, I didn't expect that. And all of a sudden, I looked up in the sky, and there was this white rocket and all these crazy movements in the sky, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And you just go to the internet, you find out. And I think today, if you can't find the answer on the internet immediately, it's like, "Oh, it's got to be aliens, or it's got to be something crazy." And I think it really speaks to we don't have everything figured out. And we don't always hear about everything. So, it's interesting culture. I mean, aliens, it's a comforting thought for some, not for me. I don't want to see any aliens. If they're making contact with us, I hope it's just UFO flybys. I'm not trying to have any kind of alien alliance or alien discourse, alien war. I think the Earth's complicated enough right now. We don't need aliens to come in here and make it more complicated.
They could at least wait till after the election. Let's get through that. I know who I blame for the alien craze. I blame Joe Rogan. I love Joe Rogan. I listen to a lot of Joe. Full disclosure there, but I love Joe. But it's funny, and he has brought some really great guests and interviews on that have really, I think, have kind of opened the questions to it. And he is the biggest podcast in the world, and so I could see that. But it's just I wish that we had it was less anecdotal evidence. I think a lot of the world, it was just in the thing, a lot of the world is based off of anecdotal evidence, but it seems like our whole everything, it's like the first conclusion is always the most dramatic one.
I prefer anecdotal though. I don't want hard evidence of aliens. I don't need aliens in my life, man.
I mean, we talked about this with P. Diddy, it's like the first thing we thought was it's the cabal, it's the
Illuminati,
Illuminati, and where it could just be a scumbag. It could just be, what was the Joe Dirt, where it could just be a turd from a spaceship coming out, the waste of the toilets from them.
Yeah, I think it's comforting also just think there's a grander plan and there's a grand connection. It's kind of like, I think you even see in movies nowadays, every single movie has to be like an Avengers level where, one movie you have a reference to the next movie, have a reference to the next one, like every crime has a reference to the next crime, or every weird thing in the sky is aliens, Everything has to connect, everything has to be part of the same kind of story, which I think has been a general trend.
Well, you know what? I don't mind it. I think stuff like that, to me, I love sci-fi. I love sci-fi movies, and so would love to see if there was aliens. That would be cool to me. And if they came to Southern California, that would be even better. I wouldn't have to go anywhere
I'm
to
gonna
go see
respectfully disagree. I don't want any aliens. I don't want them coming to Southern California. I want nowhere near. Get out of our solar system.
it.
Man.
If they're peaceful, if they're like the
Dude,
Star
even if they're
Trek
peaceful, we don't
ones.
need another faction. Again, the world's complicated enough. Unless they're gonna bring like the cure to cancer, and
Hey.
if they do that stuff, okay, come on in, aliens.
it.
But like, if they're just gonna add more politics, I don't need. I don't need either Donald Trump or Joe Biden to speak on to the aliens. I don't want either of them speaking.
Okay. So let's end the show on that. To our aliens out there, if you would like to come to Southern California, you're invited, but don't bring your politics. Bring your medicine that will help and save our people. So thank you so much, and we'll go to our interview. Thanks, James.
Thank you.